Alrighty. So can everyone see my screen? All right,
Yes.
great. So I want to welcome you guys to the virtual forum platform info and orientation session. We're really grateful that you guys could join us. And hopefully you guys have all received the virtual forum guide, which I sent out a little bit earlier today alongside the meeting invite. So if you guys don't have that, you can go ahead and click on the link in the meeting invite, and it should be able to pull up in your browser. So that's kind of what we're going to be using to go through this session today. And we'll move down here to our agenda. As you can see, we're going to go ahead and make sure everybody's mic and video are working at the end of the call. But then we're going to go through just a couple of things that is already in the virtual forum guide, but we're going to help clarify some of that. That way, hopefully, if you have any questions, we'll answer them. But if we don't answer them, there will be an opportunity for you to ask those right at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, write them down, or we'll have an opportunity at the end for you to ask them live. So then we'll move on to just an explanation of the WebEx and Livestream virtual forum platforms, some tips for recording your pre-recorded presentation, some more information on the poster session, and then we've got a link, a QR code to the LinkedIn group, which we highly encourage you guys to join. We like it when you guys can connect with each other during the forum, and we're trying to provide as many opportunities for that as possible. So if you guys want to grab your phone, you can scan that QR code. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure it's also at the bottom of this guide, so you can also click on the link there. Alrighty, so moving on, we will go to part 2 on the orientation guide, which is the WebEx and Livestream section. So for the virtual platform, there's going to be 2 different mediums that we're going to be using. The first one is WebEx, which you guys have all joined in this meeting for. And WebEx is going to be how you will interact with the judges. You guys will all log in to the WebEx, and so will the judges and the program staff and anyone else. And you guys will be able to talk with each other directly on there. While you're logged into the WebEx, you don't need to do anything extra. Instead, we have a media communications team who will also be logged in to the WebEx, and they'll be live streaming everything that's happening except for one small section, which I'll go over in just a minute. But they'll be live streaming everything that's happening straight to the public live stream, which is where we invite you guys, or ask you guys to invite your family, your friends, your coworkers. We want everybody to watch you guys on there. They can watch you there live, but it will also be recorded there, and you guys should be able to go back and watch the forum again. So if unfortunately you're unable to attend some of the other sessions, you should be able to come back later and watch any of the presentations which you missed. So I do want to point out right here, the private WebEx is only going to be available to registered participants. Last year, we got a couple of people who were looking for links to access the WebEx, and it turned out that they hadn't registered for the forum, but they were going to present during the Q&A session and the pre-recorded video. So we asked them to register, even though it was a little bit late. This year, we want to just make it totally clear that the only way you'll get a link to join the WebEx is by registering. So those of you who do get a link, please don't share them with anybody who hasn't registered, because they should have already received that.
Well, and I'm going to pop in here too, just for a quick second, Tori.
Sure.
And we're not putting that restriction on there because we're mean or we don't want you to send it out to your friends or other team members. The reason we're doing that is actually because we only have a limited number of slots available on the WebEx. And if it ends up getting sent out to more people than we're aware of, we might not have enough slots for everybody to get in. And we want to make sure each and every one of you that have been working on this are in. We even had last year a few folks that sent it out to like family members or coworkers or things like that that really had nothing to do with the actual team. And so they ended up taking some of those slots that should have been going to our team members. So we're just trying to protect you guys is why that's in place.
And everyone, this is Stacy Dees. She is the program manager for the Big Idea Challenge. I'm sure you guys have heard from her already this year, but if you haven't, now you've heard from her live in the flesh. And if I didn't introduce myself, hi, I'm Tori. I am a program coordinator for the Big Idea Challenge. So just like Stacy said, there is a limit on the number of participants that can be in a WebEx session. So we're only requiring you guys to be in very specific sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up. You can see I've got it here also. So this is our forum agenda, which you guys also have access to. But if you haven't seen it yet, you can go to the Big Idea Challenge website on the 2021 forum page. We've got a link to it there as well. But the sections that you guys are required to be in are in orange. Plus, whatever your session is in black. So hopefully that should be really easy for you guys to look through the agenda and just see, oh, I need to be here for the welcome and introductions. And then let's say you're on the Colorado School of Mines team, right? So you'll know that you need to be here. It says 2:15, but you actually need to log in 10 minutes early. And I'll explain that again in just a second why, but we're going to do some AV checks for you. So you guys will all receive calendar invitations for all of those sessions, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. But we do want you to just take a look at the agenda and know which sessions that you're required to be in if you're a registered participant. So, like I promised, we would go over what that one section is, which is not going to be live stream, right? So each team's presentation is going to be conducted in 3 parts. And those 3 parts, here we go. Those 3 parts are a 10-minute WebEx troubleshooting window, which is going to occur on WebEx only. And what will happen is the team will log in to the session 10 minutes prior to their scheduled presentation time. We ask that everybody try to be on time for that. For example, if you have a very large team, you guys want to make sure that everybody logs in exactly 10 minutes early. It is really important for us to make sure that everybody's mic and video work before we begin your pre-recorded presentation, because once we get to the end of that pre-recorded presentation, we've got an agenda to keep, and unfortunately, we don't want to eat into you guys' Q&A time. We want to give you as much possible time with the judges as possible. So we can't do any of those AV checks after. So we want to make sure that everything is working beforehand. And that is what the 10-minute WebEx troubleshooting window is for. So that's going to be really important for anybody on your team who wasn't able to join us today, because we'll need to do all of those AV checks then. So on the live stream, people aren't going to hear or see those AV checks. That's going to be all private to the live stream. But what is going to happen is your team's digital poster will actually show on the live stream for all of the audience members who are watching there. So that'll give them a good opportunity to see it, and that we'll also have a link that they can visit and view it, in larger form, higher definition than we can stream. But it kind of gives them a sneak peek. That way they can see what's going on. So, again, we'll test each team member's audio, video, and mic. And like Stacy said, only registered participants will be allowed to be present during the session. But unfortunately, that's just for a reason. We've got a limited number of slots, and we need to know exactly how many people are going to be in there. One thing that I didn't list here that will also occur, but is also in the orientation guide, is you guys will assign a secondary team lead during this 10-minute WebEx troubleshooting video. This is because if your primary team lead's connection goes down, or if something happens with their hardware where their internet goes out, their electricity goes out, something happens, that secondary team lead will take over the primary team lead's role. So, for example, we'll get to this in just a minute, but if a question comes from a judge and the primary team lead seems to have dropped off, that secondary team lead can jump right in and help with assigning questions to different team members or going to slides and answering questions. So that's the first part. The second part, right after the 10-minute WebEx troubleshooting video, what will happen is our MC, the wonderful Stacey Dees, will pop on and she'll introduce your team's university and your project title, and then we will play your 30-minute pre-recorded presentation both on the WebEx and on the live stream. So that's going to happen synchronously at the same time so that everything remains live. What you're seeing on the WebEx will be exactly what the people on the live stream are seeing with just a little bit of a delay. So we do encourage you not to have the live stream up while you guys are currently in your own team's presentation, just because it might get a little confusing on your end. And then finally, as soon as your 30-minute presentation is over, we will go straight into a moderated Q&A session. And I've got on the next page exactly how that will go. But that will be live streamed to the public as well as happening on the WebEx. So again, you guys don't have to do anything to make it go to the live stream. All you have to do is log into the WebEx and be your fantastic selves. And we've got all of that taken care of. So on to the Q&A session, because I know many of you might have a lot of questions about exactly how this is going to go. So hopefully we can help answer all of them. What will happen is the moderator will ask our first judge, and I've got a picture of all of our wonderful judges here. These are all the people who will be joining us for your Q&A session. But what will happen is the first judge will ask a question, and down here you can see what will happen. The judge might say, "What inspired your concept?" Your team lead will go ahead and step forward, not literally, but figuratively, and they will either answer the question themselves or they'll assign it to another person on your team. This helps make sure that people don't talk over each other and make sure that nobody's waiting to figure if somebody else will answer the question. Instead, you guys already know on your team who's assigning questions and who's taking the questions. So that'll make everything a little bit more smooth on you guys' end as well as for the judges. One thing right here, teams can reference, here we go. Teams can reference the slides that they submit during their Q&A session. What you'll do is you'll basically just say, our moderator will be, I think, Robin Ford, and you'll just say, moderator, can you please go to slide number 55, right? If you guys have slides that aren't shown in your pre-recorded presentation, but you want to include them for the Q&A session, go ahead and include them in your slide deck that you submit, and then we'll be able to reference them during the Q&A session as long as you reference the correct number. I will say that the chart deck will only be presented if it's being referenced. All of the other times we will not be sharing our screen and it'll just be your lovely faces. So all of that is going to be on the WebEx and on the live stream. And if the judges have any remaining questions at the end of the Q&A session, or if the team was waiting to ask another team member or wanted to go back and reference something for any specific questions, we ask that you address any of those questions during the poster session, which will occur the next day on the 18th. So all of the team presentations are going to be on Wednesday, November 17th, and our interactive poster session is scheduled for the 18th. So we'll just go back here. And you guys can see down here, we've got this example flow, the exact same one in the form orientation guide, but I'll go through it just because it's kind of nice to kind of hear how it will go. So basically the MC will say, Judge A will say that's Michael Johansson, right? Michael, do you have any questions for the team? And then the judge might say, yes, I do. Team, what inspired your concept? And then the team lead will say, thank you for the question. I think that my teammate Susan would be the best person to answer that question. Then Susan will make sure that she's unmuted. And if she needs to reference a slide, then Susan will say, Robin, do you mind going to slide 55? Then we were inspired by, and go ahead and start answering the question before the slide gets pulled up. We want to give you guys as much time as possible during your Q&A session, so it'll be a little bit easier if you go ahead and start answering the question. We'll pull up the slide as soon as we can, and then you'll be able to reference it during your answer. And then we'll just go on to the next judge.
It's usually just like a 10-second delay, 10 to 15-second delay at most to be able to get the slide up that you need.
Yes, Robin just has to, or whoever our moderator will be, will just need to go to your slide deck and go through it and make sure that they're referencing their correct slide. So that's all happening. You won't see that part happening because we won't share our screen until we already have the slide up, but that's what's happening in that delay. So again, these are our lovely judges. If you want to read more about them, we invite you to visit the Big Idea Challenge website right on the judges page for the 2021 challenge. You can click on their lovely faces and see more information about them. And now we'll go ahead and move on to our next session. We've got this section in your orientation guide is called Tips on Recording Your Presentation and Best Practices for the Live Portion of the Forum, which is a mouthful. But all of that is kind of along the same lines of making sure that you look your best and sound your best during both the pre-recorded presentation and while you're live during the Q&A session and the poster session. So we've got a couple of tips for basically all of that. So you can read them here. You're going to want to eliminate external noises because they can be distracting and it's hard for somebody on the other end to hear. One thing that you might not think about that has happened to me, for example, is my computer fan is pretty loud. So I actually have my computer raised up so that it gets plenty of ventilation so that hopefully the fan doesn't kick on as often and then you can't hear it when I'm talking to you right now. You might still be able to hear it, but I hope you can't. Again, you'll check your lighting. I've got a lamp over here, which you can't see, but it's in front of me over to the side. It's not blinding me or anything. But one other thing you'll notice, I don't have any windows behind me. So that makes it a little bit easier. Nothing is blinding the audience and you're well lit. Just check your lighting in your background beforehand. Dress as if you're going to give a live presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're wearing full clothing. Gym shorts might not, work exactly if you need to step up and shut the door behind you.
But you also don't have to be in a suit. If you'd like to be in a suit, absolutely, and you'll look sharp and we welcome it. But we've had teams in like polo shirts or even sometimes group t-shirts if they all want to look the exact same, or if you guys have had a chance to do some sort of group shirt or something like that in khakis, that's absolutely completely fine.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're not going to judge you based on what is in your background. For example, for one of our other competitions, we had a participant who had been live during the Q&A session on their phone in their car because that was the best situation that they had for them. But they were dressed nicely. It was easy to see and hear them, and there was nothing distracting in the background. They were well lit. That's just a good example of, we're not expecting everything on your side to be absolutely perfect, but we want to make sure that everything is working for you. So don't worry too much about it. Just, present yourself in your best light. One thing that I do have on here that I really, really recommend, plug in whatever you're using, because you really don't want to get that low battery notice halfway through the Q&A session and then have to shuffle around for your charger and figure out, what to do about that. So just plug it in beforehand. No worries. Everything works great. Oh. And then we have one really important note with submitting the pre-recorded presentation. So we're asking you guys to submit your pre-recorded presentations, which should be about 30 minutes long, on YouTube. YouTube will not allow you to finish processing any video longer than 15 minutes unless your account is verified. So what it means to verify an account is literally just going into your email and clicking on that verify button, and then your account's verified. So make sure that whatever account you upload it to, and it doesn't have to be, any specific account, but it does need to be a public or unlisted link, and your account needs to be verified. Otherwise, the video will never stop processing, and you'll get really worried that you can't submit it on time. That's the only problem. It's just waiting for that. But we do recommend that you guys give yourselves at least 6 hours prior to the deadline to upload your video. Because again, these are pretty large videos and we want to make sure that they're best quality. And sometimes YouTube will pre-process a video in a lower quality so that it goes up immediately, and then it'll process the higher quality over the following hours. This will just make sure that when our team goes to download your video from YouTube, it's in its highest possible quality. So again, just upload it in advance. Stacey, have I missed anything so far?
You haven't missed anything, but I just really want to reiterate the fact that last year, 3 out of the 8 teams that we had problems uploading their video and were panicking and contacting us in the middle of the night, and they were so stressed out, and we want to avoid that for you. So really, I just want to hit it home that you really, really, really need to upload those videos probably earlier than you think you need to.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is, if you guys start, for example, a day or two beforehand and you encounter problems, you can always shoot us an email and we've got plenty of time to reply and help you troubleshoot that issue. So, hopefully you guys can get that a little bit sooner and we can help you out if you end up having any problems. But hopefully you won't have any problems. So I'll go ahead and move on, because here I've got some more information about the poster session. So like I said, our poster session will happen on day 2 of the forum. There will be a welcome and a short presentation. Excuse me, I'm sorry. A short presentation from our NASA Space Technology Mission Director at Sponsors, that's STMD. And then right after that, we're going to go into you guys' interactive poster session. So we've got some more information on how that'll go. What will happen is you guys will log into the main hub room for that welcome and that NASA presentation. And then from there will be several different breakout room links. So there will be one for each team. And you will click on the link for your own team to go to your personal breakout room. Everybody from your team will go back to your breakout room, and the judges will begin judging right at 11 o'clock. So the judges will spend 12 minutes with each team, and you may have 1 or 2 judges in your room at a time, depending on if you guys have doubled up for that round. But every 12 minutes, they'll be swapping out, rotating out. And we do have one rule about that, is you have to have at least 2 team members in your breakout room at all times. And you guys might be wondering, well, where else would I be? You guys might be in another team's breakout room, because we do encourage you guys to click on the links of the other teams. As long as 2 people are in your room, the other team members are welcome to go ask questions of all of the other teams and talk to them about their work over the past year, because you guys are all experts here. You guys have all been working on these concepts, and the other teams might be interested in your work, and we expect you guys to be interested in theirs too. So you guys have that opportunity. You guys can also rotate your team members, so the same 2 team members don't have to stay in your room at the same time. You can swap them out over the course of that hour and a half. That means you can also take, water breaks, bathroom breaks, anything you need. The judges, like I said, will rotate every 12 minutes to a new team. So they've got, on their end, they've got a schedule that they need to keep. So if they end up needing to leave, Just know that that's why. They don't really have a whole lot of time, but they've got a lot of personal time with each team. And then finally, the judges will leave that poster session right at 12:30, which is the end of our scheduled poster session time. But the rooms actually won't close until 1:30, which is an hour after the end of that scheduled time. What we're going to say is we really encourage you guys to stick around after the judges leave to finalize their scores and go to their deliberation. We encourage you guys to stick around and chat with each other because, this is a great opportunity for you guys to see each other face to face and ask questions about each other's work. And it could be a really good opportunity for you to meet with other peers that are in the field and other future engineers. So we really do encourage you guys to stick around.
So one thing about this, we're calling it a poster session, but really it might not actually be like a poster session per se. You don't have to have your poster displayed during this time. The judges will have already seen it by the time that they get here. It's really just a chance for them to have a little bit more time to connect with you guys, perhaps a little bit more informally. For instance, when you're actually doing your presentation question and answer session during your allotted time slot on the 17th, some of the questions that they're going to be asking you are probably more technical in nature and related directly to your project, your research, the results, all of that. In the poster session, they might ask you things like, what were some of the challenges that you guys had to overcome? Or what was the hardest part about this? Or what would you do differently? Like, it's not really a scored part. It's part of an opportunity for them to just be able to ask you some of those questions that had we been in person together, they might have had the opportunity to ask you over lunch or standing in line for food or, something like that. So just know that kind of poster session is going to be a little bit more informal. And then it will also give you a chance if the judges had asked you any questions during Wednesday's presentation on the 17th that you weren't able to answer or you had to come back to them and say, hey, I'm really not sure of that. Let me get back to you. You can get back to them during the poster session. That's the time to do that. So those judges will be looking for you if you tell them that you're going to get back to them.
Thank you, Stacy. And I will just say one other thing. You guys are currently in the WebEx interface now. Down at the bottom, you should see a button that lets you leave the meeting. Now, this is just like a technical thing, but when you go into your breakout room, you're basically in a session in a session. So if you want to go back to that main hub to view other teams' rooms, you'll click that Leave Room button, which right now is exactly where it should say Leave Meeting, or maybe it just has a little phone icon that's red, right? So if you hit that icon when you're in your breakout room, it'll kick you back to the main hub where you'll then be able to enter another team's poster session. So then you'll be able to enter another team's poster session, and then you can kick yourself back out by hitting that red button. It'll take you back out to leave the breakout room and then back to the hub so you can enter your own. If you double click that button when you are in a breakout room, you will click yourself out of the meeting. It could accidentally close and then you get kicked out, right? Oh no. Don't worry too much about that. You guys can re-enter the session at any point until 1:30. So if something happens and, for example, you accidentally double click that button, it's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and just reopen WebEx and then go back. But that's just a point of clarification about how the breakout rooms work specifically. And here we go. I think we're at one of the last points. You can see the cute little Google dinosaur down here. This should take you to our LinkedIn group, which we've set up for the 2021 Big Idea Challenge participants. This is a private group that is just for you guys. We're going to invite the judges as well and the sponsors if they'd like to join. There's no requirement to join, obviously. It's just kind of something fun that'll help you connect with your peers and connect with other teams. So Stacy also has a couple of other really exciting opportunities that she wants to talk with you guys about. And then we'll take some questions at the very end. And after that, we'll go ahead and do our remaining AV checks with everybody else who has not yet completed them. So Stacy, you can take it away.
All right. So, first, I really just wanted to thank everybody for your continued patience and flexibility. This past year, I know that you guys have had all of your own COVID struggles. We have had a lot of struggles on our end as well, trying to get permissions to have an in-forum event. And then I know that we went back and forth with you guys several times on whether we were going to be in person or having to do this virtually. And there were so many things that we had to consider. We wanted to make sure that every one of our students and faculty and judges and staff and everybody felt comfortable. We wanted to make sure that NASA safety weighed in on all of that. And of course, everybody had differing opinions, but in the end, we decided to go virtual at the expense of having that in-person experience, just because we care about everybody's health and safety. And I know it wasn't ideal for some of you, but we want to thank you for helping just to keep your spirits up and keep pushing forward. We're going to have a fun forum. We are going to have all of your presentations recorded and sent out, and you're going to have eyes looking at what you're doing. And there's so many people in NASA that are super excited about this event. We actually just had a meeting this morning with the STMD sponsors, and they just couldn't be more proud of the work that you're doing. And I wanted to thank especially several of the teams that have sent us photos and pictures and tests. And even we've seen a couple of posters that teams have already been creating and putting out there. And we're just really proud of the work that you guys are doing. I cannot wait until next month. I'm like sitting on pins and needles waiting to hear the final results from everybody's work that you've been doing over the past year. It's looking really exciting. And I'm not the only person that thinks so. So when we canceled your session at Ascend, they, and I say they, the meeting planners at Ascend were really upset because they felt that the content that your session was going to provide was really going to be beneficial to the entire aerospace community. And so they were trying for a long time to figure out a way if we could do your session virtually. And it turns out literally just a few minutes before this call, Tori doesn't even know this, I was contacted back, and that they felt like we couldn't do it with you guys spread out so many different places around the United States. If we'd all been together in one location where we could do it virtually into their session, they would have been able to. So I apologize that that option fell through. But in its place, another exciting option came up today. And so what that option is the Lunar Surface Innovation Group, or LSIC, as it's called, at NASA, has 6 different focus groups. And one of their focus groups is on lunar dust mitigation. It is a group that's comprised of NASA subject matter experts, of industry subject matter experts, and of military subject matter experts. And we have arranged for you guys, if you're interested, the first week in December to participate in their focus group meeting that they're having. They're having an all week long meeting, and they're going to set up a session for you guys to come in and do each about 10 minutes and give a 10-minute overview of your project, what you learned, what the results were, what you would do differently, those sort of things, to help them to create protocols and plans in what NASA's strategy is going to be for lunar dust mitigation. But it's not only to help them, it's also, they really want several of the industry folks that are participating in the focus group are interested in hearing your solutions so that they can potentially partner with you and maybe provide funding for a next phase to further develop the concept that you have, or to help get it to a higher TRL level so that maybe it can be utilized for NASA. But one way or the other, they're very interested in partnering with a lot of our teams. And so it's not going to be required of our teams. This is something outside of the scope of the Big Idea Challenge, but we hope you will all take the opportunity to participate in that event and give those 10-minute presentations. I realize December 1st is a terrible week for you, and that it is probably finals week for a lot of you. But if you could find somebody on the team that'd be willing to present and answer some questions, that would be great. So if you think your team is interested, I would love for you to just pop a note in the chat or send us an email and let us know. But you'll be getting an invitation from the Lunar Surface Innovation Group. to participate in their focus group meeting. And you will also be able to stick around for more of the meeting other than just your presentation if you like and have the bandwidth during finals week, which might be crazy. But I hope that that is another really good opportunity because it will be a very focused niche group for you to be able to get the word out about what you've been doing for the past year, a year and a half almost actually at this point. It's been a long time. I know that you've been working on your concepts. And in the same regard, lunar dust mitigation is, for all intents and purposes, a very small group of people working on this throughout the world. And so we really truly hope that you join that LinkedIn group that Tori mentioned, because it could be an opportunity for you to network with some folks from other teams and create bigger and better things in your future. In several of our previous challenges, we've had teams from all over the world, even not just in the United States, but even all over the world, get together and create businesses, create proposals together, just from meeting each other at these challenges. And so they've been really successful, and we really hope that you take that opportunity. And I think with that, that is all I have to say. So I will turn it over. If anybody has any questions, feel free to just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, or you could pop it in the chat. And then we'll answer questions for a few minutes and finish up by doing some AV checks. And as soon as you've been AV checked, you're welcome to drop off. And we will be recording, well, we are recording this. We'll be sending out a link probably sometime tomorrow, likely tomorrow afternoon, so you can share with your team members who weren't able to participate if they're interested in listening to what happened today. Tori?
Thank you, everybody. So again, I've popped up on the screen the QR code where you can join the LinkedIn group. I see that there are a couple of notes over in the chat, but it looks like Stacey has answered those questions. So does anybody else on the line want to speak up and ask any questions? Going once, twice. Okay. So I'll go ahead and leave this up. If you guys have already conducted an AV check with me, we thank you very much for your time today, and we want to say you're welcome to pop off the call at this time.